Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about the solution. Let's talk. Let's talk about the solution. Yeah. Let's talk, let's talk, let's talk about the solution. King Lear Productions proudly presents Let's Talk, a podcast for the people, where we only talk about the solution. Featuring Alstead Anderson, Andre Calvacanti, Talita Dunn, and your host, Talia Wilson. Let's talk!
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk.
Let's talk!
A podcast for the people. A podcast where our main focus is the solution. I am your host, Talia, and today's topic is about gun violence. Before we get off into our discussion, I would like to introduce my cast members. Andre Calvacanti, Talita Dunn, and Alstead Anderson. So, Talita, what is your opinion about gun violence?
Actually, can I say my opinion?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
No, I'm going to be nice. Okay, I'm going to be good. My opinion on gun violence is I really don't have an opinion. I have a feeling about it.
Okay.
I feel deeply that it's very deeply rooted into a lot of our societal kind of norms, the violence that we see on TV, radio, music. It's all kind of subliminally sinking into the minds of our youth. And we don't even pay attention to it. You get to the point to where we're just watching TV or we're just listening to the radio. But at the same time, what we see, what we hear, it incorporates into us. And these poor young people, they're growing up with all of this violence and this, boom, boom here and fighting here and this there. And it's like they don't even have a chance to get started.
Well, I have a different opinion about that, though. You know what I mean? I have a different opinion. I think that, when kids growing up and they're playing with BB gun, water gun, there's always gun. I think they think it's okay to, like running around, bang, 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 bang. And also plus watching it on TV, too. So I think that's a whole different, you know what I mean? That
Andre, what is your opinion?
On the gun violence itself?
Yes.
Violence itself, yeah.
So I sort of lean towards the idea of like the whole culture background. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to assess where is the line between my freedom to possess a fire gun and where does the next person's freedom begin? Because I can't use my freedom to hurt, someone else, Because ultimately, I do believe that there's no distinction of an individual experience in the whole. Like, if I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. Like, the moment I shoot you, I'm shooting my soul. Because I think we're all one.
Wow. Understood. Okay, my opinion is, back to what Talita said, a lot of it has to do with music, the videos and all of that type of stuff, and also the different type of drugs that they have on the street. A lot of that, they take it and then they get into this music and then they just feel like they want to do this. It got a lot to do with gangs and everything. So, the situation is like kind of up and down. They can go different type of ways with it. So, yeah.
But do we think that like, for me, like growing up in my country, though, you know what I'm saying? Our parents never allow us to play with guns. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because basically, if you grow up with certain things when you're younger, you know what I mean? Your mindset, is gonna like focus on like it's okay to play with a gun. You know what I mean? So when you get older, it's okay. You know what I mean? So basically, that's my opinion on that. You know what I mean?
So you think they should sell toy guns in the store?
I think they shouldn't sell toy guns in the store.
Okay,
that's what I think. You know what I'm saying?
It should be taken away.
They should be taken. That's what I think. You know what I mean?
I have to agree, just to a degree, because I don't allow my boys guns.
Not water guns and none of that.
I don't even know. We do sprayers.
I kind of think that's taken away from the kids actually enjoying themselves and having fun, but I do understand to a certain extent.
But you see, also too, I don't think that it's the real of the gun though. I think it's the person
It's the
behind it. You know what I mean? Because
That's
I'm not
true.
really
That's-
scared of the gun. I'm scared of the person that behind it. You know, because the gun don't really squeeze.
Gun
itself.
don't kill people. People
Yeah.
kill
People
people.
kill
That's
people.
the-
Exactly.
Okay,
You know,
right.
and then we wonder if that, you know, mental health or, you know, peer pressure or, you know, what lead to that. You know
A
what I mean?
variety of different things why people
Yeah.
We gotta-
choose to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Right.
We gotta assess the reasons why people are shooting. Not you can't hate. It's like saying I can use the phone to do good and I can use my phone to do bad.
Yeah.
The tool is not the issue.
It's the person behind it, right?
Behind it.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I think that if we tackle the educational side, you know, awareness, making sure, because think about it, what leads a person into pulling a trigger against another human being, which psychologically speaking, we do feel each other's pain. So when you are shooting, it's not a matter of my opinion. You are hurting yourself when you're shooting someone else. So what is the question there is like, what is making that person
Yeah, what possessed them to
so
do that? Yeah,
hurt so bad to the point that I'm gonna? How
take your
lost
life.
is he?
Yeah, it's
So
mentally.
it's
I
our
think it's
responsibility.
mentally.
I think it's
Yeah.
our responsibility. It's everybody's problem.
Anger.
You know, anger.
lot.
But where does it come from? You know,
It could come from a lot of different places, like
Let's
just
talk
growing
about
up
that. Yeah.
as a kid or just being around
Abuse,
certain things and watching your dad or your big cousin and just different things could lead a person.
Yeah.
And I think they like at a young age. I'm not gonna lie. That's my opinion. I think it started at a young age and they just see things and they just grow into it and now it's just like, oh, because I'm from this side or he's from this side, we not repping the same thing, I'm gonna take your life.
Yeah.
Or like what possessed people to go into a school and just shoot up.
Wow.
Like, yeah, we could just go off into this conversation and way deeper than that, but I'm just stating the obvious.
There's
Like,
a wild
There's
guess
so much. Yeah.
about that. Like, I feel like partly it's because of this identification with the tribalism. It's like, I am this tribe, you are a different people. Like, the problem begins there because if I see you, I don't know you, but if I see you as part of the group, why would I want to shoot you? So it's like, it's the mentality, oh, we're separate. Like, oh, his color is different than mine. You know?
yeah, that
Like-
goes
Right.
way deeper
goes
than
way
we can
back.
actually talk about.
But I have to bring it up.
Yeah,
We have to
yeah.
But
bring
that's
it up.
good that we're
It's
talking
true.
about it
Because
because
it's a
yeah,
It
yeah,
is true.
And
especially
everybody's suffering from it.
So my
true.
question
Yes, it
is, like,
true.
what age? Because I think that there should be a limit, an age limit that you should be able to buy a gun. You know what I mean?
That's
You
true.
know what I mean?
35.
You know what I mean? I think there should be a late age limit. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the
I
right
agree.
to possess the gun. You know what I mean? But I think there should be an age limit because right now, you know, you have a 16-year-old, 18-year-old kid out there with a gun,
Able to access an AK.
and you know, and his waist, you know, flossing down the street. And if you stepped on him or look at him too wrong, bang, 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 and you take a life. You know what I mean?
I don't think they actually going into the gun store and purchasing
They're getting
it.
them on the
At
street.
that
Yeah,
age, they
but-
getting it off the streets, and
but you see-
Yeah.
they actually been given to them by people that they look up to. So that's how they. It don't matter if they say, okay, the age 25, you can't purchase a gun until then. It don't matter. They gonna find it elsewhere. They can. Some
just
of
make
them
it
take
harder.
it from their parents. They find it, their parents' stash, or they steal it from a family member or whatever. It's just. It's hard. It's hard to.
Okay, so
tell.
I have a question on that, a statement on that. So you don't feel like that if, and I'm not trying to be discriminatory in any type of way. I'm just being real. You know, you don't think a 25-year-old thinks differently than a 40-year-old? That they would give a child on the street a weapon? Do you feel like there's a different thought process that happens? Because if the kids are getting it from the younger, they're still getting it from the younger kids, or they might be getting it from an adult, like you
Right,
said. It
that's
could be
what
a,
I'm
it could be
saying.
a
They
grown
getting it
uncle
from-
or anything.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying. I think that's.
But if they
probably
raise
where
the
they getting
age
it
limit,
from.
you don't think that it would help a little bit to kind of settle some of that? Maybe.
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, but they still
They're
gonna
still gonna
find a
find
way to
access
get
to
it.
it
I mean,
regardless.
it's there.
It's
You're
like
like-
the fake ID, right?
It's
Like the
it's
fake-
there.
like the alcohol.
That- exactly.
Are they
Like
even
the
should
alcohol.
like do more intensive background check? You know what I mean? Because you know, like go deeper into the person, even to
They
the
still get it.
psyche. You know what I mean? It's good even go deeper into the psyche. You know, to find out the mental health history, not only your background and stuff. Because I mean, people have depression every day, and they hold on to depression for a long time, and adjusting those issues, and then one day they snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that would be
can't do
hard
that. That would
too,
be hard
because
to
it's a
do.
lot of people know that they going through
Right.
something and they don't go in to the doctor's office and say,
Yeah, they're
"Oh,
not
I'm
gonna
feeling
go.
this" or
Yeah.
whatever. They just like, okay, yeah, I'm depressed and I'm stressed out and I'm losing my mind, so I'm finna go kill somebody.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean,
it can go a lot of different ways.
I agree with
in my
that too,
opinion.
but man, like for instance, look at the shooting that this guy went in and shoot up his old job. You know what I mean? Just right there when he's fired, you just get fired. You know what I mean? And that just don't, because you're fired for a music dollar, mean that you need to go shoot up at people. So that's coming back way back. You know what I mean? From something
had
that
something
that,
wrong.
that that
It's
wrong from
revenge for
back.
something.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And you remember
psychologically,
he
that's
owned that
something.
gun too. You know what I
Right.
mean? But you know, we have an expert here, and we're gonna figure out, you know what I mean, like, you know, what is his opinion, and you know, it's good conversation that we're talking about this right now. You know what I mean? Cause,
Very
you know,
good
like,
conversation.
so you know, like,
Okay, we have a special guest here, the Chief of Police of Dekalb County, Mr. David Byrd.
Chief David.
Chief David Byrd.
bro.
Excuse me, I
Yeah, and it's
apologize.
an honor that to have him here to take his time out, you know, of his busy schedule to come here and discuss this conversation with us. So, you know, with no further ado, let's bring him up.
Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Talk.
Let's
talk.
I'm sitting here with the Chief David Byrd, City of DeKalb.
Correct.
All right, so back to our topic. We was talking about gun violence. So my question is, how do you feel about it?
Well, that's I mean, it's a multifaceted question when you talk about gun violence. It starts, I think you heard some of the conversations you had earlier, and you're a lot of ways you're right. A lot of it starts is deep rooted. It's not something that just came out of the blue and just started. I recall I grew up in the 70s, and actually someone having a firearm in the 70s was really unheard of. It was really an anomaly. If somebody had a gun, it was a lot. Even dealing, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, a lot of gangs. But there, you know, more than anything, you know, you would fight, but someone pulling a gun on you was just uncommon. But now we live in a time where if someone doesn't have a gun, you're pretty surprised, you know, and that's sad.
Yeah.
That's the sad state of affairs. And for law enforcement, you know, it's extremely dangerous for us. We try to do everything we can to protect you, the citizen, from violent crime. However, it's been pretty tough. This is my third decade of policing. I started in 1989 with the Illinois State Police, and had 32 years in Chicago with the Illinois State Police, and it's my first year as the chief of the city of DeKalb. So, but when we talk about gun violence, when we, like I said, we live in a country that has always kind of glamorized violence. When we talk about war,
yeah, I agree.
we have, and let me just say this: I respect any young man or young lady who joins our armed forces, but if you think about it, we're giving an 18-year-old a rifle at a very young age and tell them to go fight for their country. So this is something that's always been inbred in the in our country. The Second Amendment is extremely important to the majority of the people in this country. So I do understand that. I actually agree with it to a certain extent. I think we have to do a better job of preventing people who are not in their right state of mind.
Yep, back to the mental health.
To have weapons, because that's actually one of the biggest problems in law enforcement right now is mental health.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that even the most smallest traumatic event, someone was not in their mental state of mind for, even if it was a short period of time.
Yeah.
So,
like an in and out
it's an
stage.
in and out stage. And then you have some who have prolonged mental health issues. So if you think about the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, now this young man was 18 years old, and there's no way you can explain to me that an 18-year-old would, first of all, he shot his grandmother.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was
now,
really crazy.
I can only tell you how much I love my grandmother, and I couldn't even the thought of doing that to my grandmother, I really can't think of. I can't even fathom
like you
that.
can't even
And I know
picture
you
it.
all can't either. So I know how hard this was for this young man. I mean, what was his state of mind? You know, and he was 18 years old. And to shoot these young children. I mean, even 10-year-olds, babies to the point where their families couldn't identify them, just physically identify them. So that means something had to be wrong with that young man. You just don't wake up
And
in
say,
the-
I'm gonna go and shoot up
Yeah,
at school and all of that.
who wakes up
It's
that
not
way?
sudden,
No.
for
Who
sure.
does that? And the same thing when you talk about the Buffalo shooting. Now that was more racially biased and racially targeted, and that young man, very young as well, but he fell deep into the rhetoric of what was being taught to him, about white supremacy. He fell into that. So he drove 200 miles, over 200 miles to get to a place where he knew that people of color would be, and that's who he targeted. And you have an 85-year-old woman. And here's my thing about this. This is what enraged me about this as well, is that an 85-year-old woman should be able to take her last breath laying in her bed.
Right.
That's how she should leave this earth. She should not leave this earth being shot twice with a rifle. And why on the ground?
Yeah, that
My family.
But yeah, right. Yeah. So it's like so gun violence is very it's deep. It's multifaceted. There's conflict resolution that's involved in this, especially when you're dealing with urban areas where where you do see, especially on the south side of Chicago, where I grew up at, you see a lot of that black on black crime, and a lot of that comes from conflict resolution. At the end of the day, they're not being taught how to deal with conflict. And
It's like a jungle, right?
it is.
It is a jungle in a way.
It's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And that's how they feel. And let me just say this: if they don't value their own life,
How they gonna value yours?
what makes you think they'll value yours?
Exactly.
And they don't. And it doesn't matter what your color.
Okay, on that point, Chief, how do we start to implement that better thinking of self, putting that confidence into our people, so that we don't fall into that? Because that's my main thought on that. Because you're right, I think that if you don't have self-love and self-care, how can you care for anyone? But how can we help that as a community? I mean, what could we do to change that?
And you make a great point, and it starts with the community. I grew up. I never knew my father, so I'm not, and I never used that as a crutch or an excuse, because I'm not the only one.
Right.
I mean, I realize that I'm not the only one, but I grew up in a family of, and pretty much predominantly women ran our households, and they loved us though, but they held us accountable too for our actions. I recall. I'll make this a quick story, but I was on the bus and as a young man, I was probably 14, and I was on the back of the bus and I was cussing like a sailor, and I was with my buddies and we were coming back from football practice, and we was cussing. So I was like, oh, well, there's my stop. So, if you guys rode the Chicago CTA bus, so you can get off at the back or the front.
That was like the cool spot
Right.
in the back.
So I got off at the back, and then I did not. And when I got off, I realized that my grandmother's best friend was in the front.
Ooh. Oh, she's calling us.
look
I
who's
know
here.
she
Yeah.
called the face.
Say something.
And let me tell you,
Don't tell me you went home.
I was in fear because
You should have went home.
Well, you know what? Well, I was so scared because she said, I'm so disappointed in you. I can't believe you were. She was like, wait till I tell your grandmother. So she started walking, and I was about, I don't know, maybe 10 steps behind her. So when her house was on the block before my grandmother's, so I'm like, man, please make the turn.
Right, don't
go
stop
into
here.
your house, right? And sure enough, she goes right past her house. I'm like, Lord, she's going straight to my grandmother. So by the time I got to the steps, she was already on her way back down. And she was like, your grandmother wants to talk to you. So I walk in, and I tell you, it's a picture of her. Her head is in her hands, And I was like, and she's like, she just looked at me like the shame.
Disappointment.
It was shame though.
Shame.
It
Wow.
was shame, and she's like, you carry my name.
Yeah.
Wow.
You carry my name, and then she walked past and said, your food will be ready in a little while.
Wait till you sleep.
But I was,
Oh my
I was like,
God.
just whoop me now.
Just get it over with.
Beat me,
Oh my
whoop me.
God.
I would take the whooping over the shame. It was like she was,
Oh.
and she said, "You carry my name."
Oh wow.
And then that day I learned though. I learned a big lesson because I learned that it isn't just about me. I have to do things the right way. And
For everybody.
right, because I'm protecting her name, and it meant the world to her, to be a Byrd. She's like, you carry my name. So going forward, I always knew I wanted to be a police officer. It was embedded in me, and I've been carrying that torch ever since because I love being out there. I want to help. I want to teach. I want to mentor. So to your point, how we get in front of it, we do have to start early. We have to get more involved in the community. What happened to the boy, like the girls and boys community clubs.
We need more of those.
We need those.
Yeah.
We need the YMCAs to be active.
Right.
We need kids, and not all about sports, because that's the kind of things we always fall for. Oh, you can play basketball. But
And
what
some
about the
of them
kids who not athletically?
They not, and they just got different
Like
talents.
intellectual activities too,
Yeah.
Sure.
like playing a piano or
Right.
art
Violin.
school.
Yeah, we
or,
gotta
like,
make
give them options.
We got to make options for them. Chess, all these different
Poetry.
things.
Some of them like poetry. They like to dance. That's like you
See,
just.
that's why, and I cut you. This is
No,
why
it's okay.
we designed this program, because we want to catch those kids from very young age
Yeah.
who are unfortunate
Yeah.
who can't go to a dance class or something, and that's why we made this program right here, because like whatever
That's where it starts,
we
right?
make, we're gonna give back to those kids. We're gonna seek out those kids and find it. But I have one question, right?
Sure.
I remember when I first meet you walking down the street. It was like 100 degrees walking down the street, you know what I mean? And I look and I saw your stars, and I'm like, wow, that's the chief of police, you know what I mean? And
Let's see this stuff.
I went up and I talked to you. It was just the most polite person, you didn't look at me anyhow. We have a good conversation, you know what I mean? I think that our community need to go back to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The peace officer.
As a
Yes.
peace officer, you know
peace
what I mean?
officer.
Because we think that, I think that they're losing, the community, losing touch with the community,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that what you're doing is great, and I have very much respect for that. You know what I mean? Because you don't find a lot of chief walking in,
Walking the
I've
beat.
never seen a
downtown
chief
like
of
you,
police.
having a conversation with,
Yeah.
a guy like me. You know what I mean? And that's very good. And the next question I want to ask you: how would it feel to be the first black police officer, the first black
Yeah.
chief
Oh, wait a
in
minute.
DeKalb?
Yeah, 1856. So
Yeah.
incorporated 1856, first black chief ever in their history, and that just says something about, in my opinion, it says something about the city of DeKalb, that they understand that there needs to be change, and they evolve themselves as a city, because if you go back and look in history, now the city of DeKalb was a sundown city. Back in the day. So if you were a black person, you had to be out of the city by sundown. And there are a lot of cities like that.
That's a lot of them.
Yeah, not just in Illinois, in different states.
Shoot, different states.
Yeah, so but when you go back into the history and you evolve, they evolved though to the point where now in 2021 they have a black chief, and I felt, in my opinion, I always felt like I was a good soldier when I worked for all my bosses throughout my career, and not all of them. Some were black, but majority were Caucasian chiefs. And I was a good soldier. I did everything I was told to do, and now I feel like, now that I'm at the helm, I expect the same.
Exactly.
Be a good soldier for me. I'm leading here. And to your point, I've had, we talk about our conversation. I had some of the most amazing conversations in some of the most unexpected locations. like in Walmart or in a parking lot of Walgreens. I had it started out with one person, and then it did up 2, and then it ended up 7, and 8 people were just. And it was like a little, like we were at. I'm like, who thought we would have
service, man.
Yeah, it was, but it was meaningful conversation. It was meaningful. It was to the point. They were asking real questions, and how are we going to get better? How are we going to reduce crime? But and things that we. That we don't always. It's a multifaceted answer. This didn't happen, overnight. Yeah. So I can tell you right now, the solution won't happen overnight. Right. But I will tell you this: we start young. Yeah. We start working on the children, education. The community has to be involved. We have to, and this is one of the biggest things that I've always said at the PD is that when I go on the roll call, I want a picture of humanity, and I mean that. I want every race to be accounted for. Sexual orientation, every background. I want to walk into my roll call room and just see a microcosm of the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then and I don't mean by tolerate, because people say, we tolerate that. No, don't tolerate. You have to accept
tolerate
each other.
Tolerate's not
Tolerating is the wrong thing.
Love is acceptance.
And the city of Dekalb is a city of belonging. Belonging means I get to be a part of the decisions. Yeah.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? If you imagine if you were, making let's say we're making macaroni. So I have the water, and that's all I have. But you have the macaroni, and you have the cheese. Yeah. See, I can't make it without you guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? So even though I have the water, how do I go forward? And that's how we
come together.
That's how the races. That's how in the city of DeKalb, that's how I want it to be. If I have all the ingredients, I can invite you to have dinner with me. Yeah. But you had no part of the preparation.
Yeah, right.
So you have no part of this. So if people feel like they have no part, then we're not gaining anything. We're not going anywhere, I'm telling you, because they can take that away anytime they want. But see, if you have the ingredient, you can't take away the ingredient. If you run away with the macaroni, we're not going to have macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
But if you run away with the cheese, sis, we're not going to have it. Yeah. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of work to be done. In law enforcement, we have our job to do. We've caused ourselves a lot of hurt. We lost a lot of faith in a lot of people that we're rebuilding on a daily basis. As law enforcement, I try to do that in the city of DeKalb. I try to have my officers be a part of the community, so the community will be a part of us. Like, people don't like coming to the PD. I'm like, come to the PD.
Chief, I have a question for you on that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
it's just because you're touching exactly what I was thinking, which is, as a member of law enforcement, you feel, that responsibility because you do have the power, the green light from the government itself to act on behalf of people.
Sure.
Right. What I've been noticing, and I want to ask you, what is being done in the law enforcement, within the PDs? What do you guys talk about in regards to this vision that now I feel like people don't really look at the police and see, oh, I'm safe. No. I look at the police and I'm like, what have I done wrong?
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm driving, but I'm like, wait, don't stop me. It shouldn't be like that. I should not feel like that.
I agree.
Because it's like a matter of no, the police supposed to represent. Listen, if something wrong is going wrong, guys, we're here for you. It's to serve and protect you, not to make you feel like you've done a crime.
Well, see, so that's why when I talk about how we've hurt ourselves, there have been several incidents in histories where we really hurt ourselves. Like, I go back to Rodney King. People talk about George Floyd. It was before that, and there are a lot of situations that might have occurred without the use of body-worn cameras and video cameras, which never came to light. So, as a police officer, I feel like my job is, and I agree with you, peace officer is a better term, and I use that a lot. That we bring peace.
Yes.
And to your point, it's up to us. And when I say us, law enforcement as a whole, to mend that fence and build those bridges, so you will feel comfortable crossing.
Yeah.
Because right now, you're right. There are people when they see a police officer, oh man, And it's like, it shouldn't be old man. It really shouldn't be.
it
It should be like, oh, hey, officer, hey, what's going
Yeah,
on?
exactly.
You know,
You
just
should
like
feel
the interaction
safe.
we
Yeah.
have.
Feel safe.
That's
But
the
this is the
point.
crazy
Yeah, but
part.
you don't. I mean,
Yeah,
the
you
majority of people don't.
Like
They
I
don't.
have an
Understand.
8-year-old son and a 10-year-old son.
Yeah.
And they're already even, and I don't speak ill of the police. I don't have
Yeah.
any issues in my home, but they already even feel that.
Sure.
Like I waved at a
What they
police
watch,
officer
right?
the other day, and they're like, "Why did you wave? Why did you wave at that cop?" I'm like, "Because he's a person at the end of the day. Before he's
Yeah.
a cop or
Right.
a this or that, he's a human
Yeah,
being."
There
exactly.
you go.
I think that, and this is my opinion, I think that there's bad cops out there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Of
There's
course.
bad cops out
Every
there.
profession.
And then there's good cops. But the thing is, what I think that a lot of the good cops don't want to speak up because it's a brotherhood,
Brotherhood.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So they don't want
Right.
to speak up for the bad
Right.
cops.
So they
you know what I mean?
already got
They
a
don't wanna
perception
betray
in their
their-
head
yeah.
that they
So my
all
question
bad.
is, what are you willing to are going to do if you can answer this question?
Sure.
In Dekalb to make sure that
So-
don't happen in.
So you made a good question, and there's a new law, and it's failure to intervene. So failure to intervene means that as a police officer, I see, let's say, my fellow partner, and he's doing something that I know is illegal. So now, it used to be a time when, if I didn't intervene, there was no consequences. But now there is. So I could be held accountable for his actions now. So now you're bringing me into it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And that's a good thing because we should be roped. We should actually, it should be a link. We should all be accountable for each other.
Right.
And as a supervisor, failure to supervise is another important part. So if you're a supervisor, you're responsible for everybody on that shift. And look at, as for me as the chief, I'm responsible for everybody in this department.
You gotta trust them.
So failure to intervene for me, or failure for me to supervise, or failure for me to take action that's required, would be detrimental to me now. And now I have a stake in it. You see what I'm saying? Where before I didn't.
You got the macaroni, baby.
I got the macaroni. So, and at the end of the day, you're right, sis. And at the end of the day, one of the things you said that really triggered me too was that, we talked about what are we gonna do? Like, what is the PD doing? And we do a lot of training, and we have a lot of real conversations, and that's why I feel that it's so important that your department be made up of different cultures, because that's the check and balances of it all. You know what I mean? That's the check and balances. We have to at least be made up of the community that we serve. At least as far as the ratio should match up. And like I tell people all the time, I could work any place. You could put me in any town you want to put me in. I could police. Yeah. I can do it fairly, without any biases, because I don't carry those, when I go to work, I don't carry my biases. I try not to have any. I really work at that, and you get into the different prejudices that people have, still. Some people just were born that way. Their grandfathers that way. Their great grandfathers are that way. How do you break it? How do you break it?
Right?
You know how strong you got to be to break that cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, the young man who has to, to break a cycle like that, especially if you know it's wrong too. You got to go and tell your dad. First of all, think about this.
He's wrong.
The dad is the one who put clothes on your back, right? Shelter, food, everything for you. He sent you to school, and you got to go tell him
That he's wrong.
that he's wrong, or even look behind
Look
that.
behind that.
You got to look at grandpa
Yeah.
and say, who grandpa did that for your dad, and you got to tell your grandfather, hey, we don't do it that way anymore,
not doing it
grandpa.
anymore.
Yeah.
So you'll see that in policing, because it can be more of it's a generational thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
see.
I got my brother's a sergeant with CPD, so my younger brother, so I get it. But he understands. I told him when he first came on the job, I said, do it the right way. Do it the right way, and don't let anybody impede your way of thinking, because you know right from wrong, because you were taught that from your family. And I think and every day when I tell the officers, I tell them all the time, if your moral compass is pointing in the right direction, okay, and you knew what you did was right, and lawful and necessary, then we got no problem. Because there are times when that's going to happen, and I get it. I mean, you're a police officer. Yeah, people are not going to, they're not going to be excited when we come sometimes, to your point.
Right.
But it shouldn't be that way
Well, when we
entirely.
need y'all, when we
Yes.
need y'all, we're excited.
Obviously,
But but we should be able to have the interaction like myself and Mr.
Yes.
Anderson had in the middle of the street. It was like, hey, how you doing? It takes us to, like, I'll pay it forward all the time. So I'll pay for people's food or coffee or whatever, and they'd be like, who paid for that? They'd be the police officer. And then they're like, and it might be someone who had never been positively impacted by a police officer in their life. You see what I'm saying? And I might have made a change for that person, because they might have felt like all of us are the same, and then they like, well, not really though.
Not really.
Because I met a guy today
It's a ripple.
who was different, right?
Ripple effect.
The ripple effect, right? So I met somebody who was different. It's the same way with the black culture. How many times do people always thought they look at what they see on the news, and how many times when you get 3 or 4 brothers walk down the street, people cross the street all the time, right? So it's like wow, you're gonna cross the street, and stuff, because you feel like I'm gonna do you harm or whatever. It just based on who I am and my color of my skin and all these different things. So we're exactly. But to your point, we can get better, but we have to start loving each other more as a humanity. I'm talking about. I'm not even talking. I mean, like in general, like across the board, we got to love each other more, and I think we'll make some change. I really do.
So me, I appreciate you coming here.
Of course,
There's not a lot of people in your position will take the time to come and sit with us and answer this difficult question, right? Yeah. So, is there any final thought? Is there anything you want to speak in this camera and let people know? You know what I mean?
But Chief, you have to talk like that.
I would say is that we can, of course, number one, we can do better. We can do better. We can do better as humanity. We have to stop. We have to stop this. I mean, killing each other. I mean, people are. I mean, there is. We have to cherish life more.
Yeah.
We have to be kinder.
Be kind. That's it.
We
right
got to
there.
be kinder to each other.
Yes.
I mean, people. We need to speak to each other when we walk down the street. I mean,
Just
nowadays,
a smile.
just a smile.
Brighten somebody's day. I'm real big on that.
I think if we start, people don't understand. Like, if more people would do that, maybe like the young man who committed the mass shooting in Buffalo wouldn't have done that, because more people would have been more kinder, and he would have been the minority on this and said, well, everybody's kind of kind to each other. Why do I feel like why should I go and shoot up this place? Because everybody's going this way. And then sometimes people go with the, you're going to go with the masses, right? Yeah. So hopefully if we can start to do that as a humanity, the guns, like you said, you guys made good points. It's not the gun. Now, could we, could we reduce the capacity of the magazines? Of course we should. That's something that should probably happen, okay? I mean, there extended magazines, there really isn't a need for it. They're only, all you're doing is going to cause mayhem and destroy a lot of people.
You take one bullet.
Yes.
You don't need 9.
You don't need 30.
35.
And we got their drum magazines out there to hold 50 rounds.
Wow.
So I mean, what do you really need that much firepower for, right? So let me just say, I'm not telling people they can't have a firearm, right? I'm not telling people they can't have a firearm. I mean, I'm not. It's the Second Amendment, okay, right? So you can have your firearm. But what I'm saying is, could we reduce the magazine capacity? Sure we can. Should we increase the age? Sure we can. And we should. Because even though I know I mentioned earlier that at 18 years old, we'll give them a rifle and say, hey, go fight for your country, right? But that's you're under the scope of war. And that's a little bit different. You're dealing with the armed forces is different. So I look at that completely different than someone walking into a gun store at 18 years old and buying a firearm, if he's not in that capacity. I think it's too much as well. I think 21 is a good age. I mean, you're grown. Like I said, with that other exception being the armed forces, you can't be a police officer until you're 21. So that goes to the same part where we don't want to give you a gun until you're 21. So I agree with all that, and I think we'll do better. I hope in my lifetime, You know, I'm 55 years old. I hope in my lifetime I see some change. And then if not, in my kids or my grandkids. So all we can do is keep. We can't give up. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
We cannot give up on
No
each
giving
other.
up.
If we give up on each other, we'll destroy each other. No
Yeah.
doubt about it.
That's the perfect way.
Yep.
It's
Perfect close.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming.
This was great. Yeah, and let's talk.
Let's talk.
Let's talk, right?
That's how we do it.
All right, guys. Good evening. We're here with Big Country, produced by 2C Comedy.
How everybody doing? Big Country is the name. Telling jokes is my game. You ask anybody, they'll tell you the same. So, how everybody doing tonight?
Good.
That's what I'm talking about. So listen, I'm not even gonna lie. I've never been kidnapped, but I know how a back of a van feel. I can tell you that. Boy, this BNT or BPT, you know, my big person towel, you need it. You need it for everyday extracurricular activity. As far as going to the bathroom, I'm talking about sex. We all know that. We don't want that awkward moment where that bead of sweat drop in their eye. We don't like that. And the only reason why her eyes rolling back is it's burned, it's salty. It happens, you know, but you need a towel. I sweat everything. I got to the point now, I sweat in the shower. So am I really clean? Like, you know, I never understood that. It's like I be hot, and it's like I'm washing. I see the suds on me, but am I really clean? It's like, when you get baptized, are you really saved? Or do you still sin? Like, everybody got quiet, like, dang, he exposed me. I didn't want everybody to know that I have sex still. But yeah, we know what sex brings kids. And I have two. My kids are spitting images of me. They're my doppelgangers. They're the reason why I'm broke, other than outside of bills. But it happens. I knew what I pulled up into when I pulled up into their mother. But, hey, it happens. Sometimes the best thing in life you don't pull out of. Unless it's done. You don't pull the turkey out unless it's done, right? And then you don't preheat the oven. You got to preheat the oven before you stick in the turkey. Because what women don't like foreplay? Yeah, but they don't like head, though. Don't like it. Talk all day. Don't want to use it. But it's cool, you know. Man, my fat flaring up. Anybody got a cupcake or a Twinkie to help bring down my fatness? You know, losing weight is different. Everything starts to hang out differently. When the certain bowls get bigger than your stomach bowls, you're doing good in life. Doing good. Get to the point I could drop it on my phone and swipe Tinder. Hey, I'm trying to tell you. It's starting to get to the point I need to come with his own area code. Big Country. I'm going to just start to call it Big County. You know, seriously, you might get the zip code later, or I might find out what area code you want. You know, everybody wants to climb mountains until they climb me. Then women realize that, dang, I am tired. Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were telling me to stop. I'm sitting there looking around. You see the sweat. Now I feel like one of the girls I'm having sex with. The sweat got in my eyes burning. Oh, I got to wipe. I got to dab. Been dabbing before they was doing this type of dab. You feel me? Like, seriously, though, like, I used to be real big. Like, I lost 80 pounds this year. 80. I know. I did it unintentionally. I got rid of friends, stress, and here we go. So if you get rid of stress, you'll lose weight. Get rid of all the dead weight and the people in your life. I mean, I'm just saying, my dad was only 75% of the person I knew, and I didn't see. All right, Big Country's the name, telling jokes is my game. You ask anybody to tell you the same.
So welcome back, Big Country, man.
How you doing?
It's nice to have you here.
I appreciate the opportunity. I really do.
So let me ask you, what made you get into the comedy world? Like, what was the first,
Realizing my life was a joke at a very early age. Very early age.
Good one.
You know, oldest of 7. You'll make fun of your life too. Guaranteed. 7 boys. Should have grew up hunting at some point. So yeah, like, there's a lot of factors that actually made me want to, like, pursue comedy. Recently, last year, I got my heart broken from my kid's mom after 7 years. So I was like, if I can let something as simple as that affect me, I would not be ready to make it big time doing comedy. So I took that focus. I went to counseling. To get my mind right. So once I got my mind right, the jokes just come. It don't matter where I'm at.
Did you really get your mind right? You seem like your mind is still not right.
I mean, it's kind of right in certain areas. You know, like when it comes to being a dad, yes, because I worked in the healthcare field for 13 years, and I recently stopped that. So now I'm a leasing agent, and I,
do real estate on the free time.
Yeah, I wish. It don't even pay me nothing. I can't even afford to work where I live at.
Aww.
Yeah. It be like that sometimes. I mean, and then I need to get my credit up, and I know being famous can honestly help. I'm so broke I can't change my mind. And I thought it was free. So
Stop it.
But
I'm taking you seriously.
You gotta feel like you're on the track already, right? Because you start I feel like it's a process, right? You start embodying it, and then the more you are, the more people reflect what you are back at you, and then the more it becomes reality. So, like, how do you feel like that process is going for you?
I want to be the change I want to see in the world, and I want to embody it. So, in order for people to be
chills,
comfortable,
man. Got the chills.
Perfect.
In order for people to be comfortable,
Perfect.
I have to be around me. I have to be comfortable with myself. It's the same way. If you don't learn to love yourself, no one will get it right. So I learned to love myself to the point that no one can show me the love that I can show myself. So now the love I have for comedy, it shows with my craft because I'm always willing to learn and do better. So and to teach too, because I tell jokes to teach. Because a lot of people are more accepting when you put something in a joke and they'll be able to listen and be like, man, dang, that was something truthful, but
your voice,
it was funny.
Right?
So I feel like one day I'm gonna be a pastor. I don't know.
Oh, really?
You gotta talk to him first.
I mean,
you gotta borrow my suit, baby. You gotta borrow my suit. Look at it.
I mean, I could actually look good in the suit now.
Country.
I mean,
I come listen. I listen.
I appreciate it because my mom said I didn't listen, and now people listen to me. I think that's crazy. Like having 2 kids, my kids listen. Like they seen me perform. Everyone's like, "Oh, your kid's there." I said, "This is their dad's job. Like their dad's working." Here? I was like, "They know their dad curse. I don't I don't whoop my kids. I don't. Cause I don't believe. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Outdated conception, right?
I can't because I did not like being beat.
I did not like it either.
I didn't. I'm pretty sure the slaves didn't like it either. I'm sure they did. But no, because if you think, but you got to think about it. It's like inherited, like because you whoop your kids to make them respect you, and the same thing, like back in the day, master whoop you, you listen to master, and then we subconsciously pick that up and we instill it in our kids. And then, like now, my kid, we have an open door policy like a job. Come talk to me about anything. Like, your kids tell too much. I want them to tell me because they'll be willing to tell me anything. Because I don't want them to be like, oh, I was afraid to tell my mom certain stuff. I ain't know having sex with a 26-year-old at 13 was rape.
Oh my God.
Hey, the water park is wet when you go there.
Right.
That was just the best kind of water park for me at that time. Just made me move a little.
Beat you.
I'm sorry.
You would've got him good.
Trust me, I told my mom when I got an adult, because my mom got hands. They should have been registered. My mom, I'm pretty sure it was related to Muhammad Ali somewhere down the line of Mike Tyson.
Sting like a butterfly. Already.
Well, it stung like
butterfly. Thank you so much for coming in, man. And we I really appreciate it.
Like, thank you guys for
sharing your story and.
Just want to teach people.
Let's do it one time. Let's go.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. I would like to take the time to thank everybody for coming out. The Chief, Mr. David Byrd, and our comedian,
Big Country.
That's
right. Let's talk.
Let's talk.
Let's go.
All right.
We out.
Nice show.
See you guys next time.
Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about the solution. Let's talk.